Hey,
Luke,
Donald.
how are you?
Hey, man. Doing well. How are you?
Good, good. Sorry, a couple minutes, a minute late. I think I was wrapping up another call.
I think you're
How's
right
it?
on time.
All right, I love it, love it, love it. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Yeah, appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome,
It's a big
awesome.
good one today, huh?
Ooh, this is a fun one. I love KPIs are like, I mean, KPIs are really, really critical because if you don't know your KPIs, again, remember, you don't know your numbers, you don't have a business. What you have is a hobby, a very, very expensive hobby, and we want to stop that hobby work. Start having a very, very highly profitable business. All right.
Yes,
You ready to
sir.
rock and
Did you
roll?
like that? Did you like that AI photo that I
I think it
created
was
with the?
awesome. It's like, and there's another app out there. Have you heard of Sora?
I have not actually. There's so many of these
Oh,
now.
Sora, ChatGPT owns Sora. You can go in and put a prompt in Sora and it'll make a video, an AI video. So I was
Oh,
like,
crazy.
I was playing around with it, like, show a restaurant owner like drinking alone in his restaurant, and it made a really cool video. It's like, I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna use this stuff for marketing. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow. That's crazy. Yeah, it's super useful. I mean, there's just
Super useful.
so many
There's so
tools
many.
now that you can use to
Oh yeah.
I mean, do AI voiceovers that sound super realistic.
Oh yeah. And then
Um,
you get
yeah,
AI,
it's
you get AI like answering systems that'll answer your phones for you and put them right where you need them to go. Like you have catering. It's really crazy what it can do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you know how to apply it to the business, it's man, we use it all the time.
Yep. It's powerful. And here's the thing, it's just getting better.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, just
And
starting
and
really.
and for people who like are in this anti-AI, AI, kind of mindset, oh, AI is the devil. I don't want to do it. It's coming. Either you jump on board or you're gonna get left behind. That's the only options you have. So
Right.
better to adapt and jump in than get left behind and smoked. So
Oh yeah. That's like it's like the internet back when that came out, and
yeah, yeah. Everyone's like,
it's
oh,
it's as big as that.
it's gonna be horrible. It's gonna. And then remember when smartphones came out? Oh, it's gonna suck away our life.
Yeah. Here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, faster than we think. Yeah, AI is way faster than we think. I actually created an AI model called AI Donald. I uploaded all my books, all my YouTube videos, all my podcasts into it. It's like over 3 million words. It's actually an AI model that you could actually ask it questions and it'll answer just like it's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. AI Donald. Yeah. It's really crazy. It's on my if you go to my Instagram page into my under my link thing, you'll see it says ask me any question and it says AI Donald. You can
Mhm.
go in and just play around with it, ask me a question. It's pretty fun. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Awesome. You ready to get started?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it. All right. Well, welcome to the Wednesday Restaurant Growth Webinar Series. Every Wednesday, we get together and we talk usually about a high level framework, theory, just something to get you from where you are a little bit closer to where you want to be. Today, we're going to talk about KPI, kick in the ass, numbers that separate the winners from the wannabes. And you know what I'm going to say? All business problems are people problems. And you know that. I know that. If this is your very first time on the webinar with us, well, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. Luke's very happy to have you here. We love having everyone here. So let's go over to ground rules real quick. Number one, have some fun. Number two, take notes. Research has shown if you write stuff down in your own handwriting, you are 70% more likely to remember the information in 30 days from now. Number three, take action. Here's the thing. If you don't apply what you've learned, you really haven't learned anything. I mean, knowledge is not power. Application of knowledge is power, right? Like I have quite a few books out. Read my book. You got some knowledge. You start applying the stuff from the books, you actually start having some power, right? And then every once in a while during a presentation, you're gonna hear me say hashtag WTSD. What does that mean? It means write this shit down. That's the gold nuggets. That's the things that I want to make sure you take away from today. And if we've never met before, I am Donald Burns. I am the restaurant coach. I am a recovering restaurant owner. I'm also a consultant. I'm a consultant for big, huge billion-dollar food brands, Cisco Foods, US Foods, Shamrock Foods, Benny Keith's, a lot, oh God, you name it, I probably could consulted with him. I'm also a chef. I was a chef when I owned my own restaurant. And after I sold my restaurants, I was a chef with Wolfgang Puck for a number of years. I'm also an author, most well known for the Your Restaurant Sucks trilogy. Savage Restaurant Success came out last year, and I have a new book coming out probably end of this month, early April, called Ingredients. And it's going to be another great book. It's going to give you a lot of insight into some new ways to just basically break free from where you are. I'm also a former U.S. Air Force pararescue member, and I'm also a restaurant investor right now. That being said, when I opened my first restaurant, I grew up like a lot of people. I grew up in the restaurant business. My dad was a chef. So I started washing dishes at 15, worked my way into the kitchen, got trained as a chef, moved up to sous chef. And then, of course, my dad told me it was in my blood. I said, I want a transfusion. Don't want to do this shit. So I got out, went into Air Force, got into pararescue, got out of the Air Force, went to college, got jobs in college at restaurants because I had experience from high school. And then a funny thing happened. I found out I love the restaurant business, decided to work with the right chefs, right places, really started, crafting my resume and working with the right places. At 30, opening my dream restaurant, this little one right here, little hole in the wall, 50-seat restaurant. And I'll tell you, I thought that just having restaurant experience was all you needed to be successful in a restaurant game. And I was so wrong. So wrong. I wish I could have I wish I had a coach like I have now, like I am to you back then, because I probably would have not struggled as long as I did. And I was very fortunate. Just like the universe sends you what you need. I was pretty close to just giving up on everything. It was I was just beating myself up, working myself to death, overweight, drinking, taking pills to wake up, taking pills to go to sleep, avoiding my family, avoiding my spouse because I didn't want to argue about money because we didn't have no money because I was losing my ass. And then a very successful businessman who was a regular at my restaurant did something that I didn't expect. He sat me down one night and he offered me a lifeline. And he basically phrased it like this. He goes, Donald, if I gave you a combination lock and said, open the lock, could you open it? I said, no. He said, well, what if I told you the combination? I said, that would be great. And he took out a little bev napkin. I still have this bev napkin in this day. It's in my other office. He wrote down 3 words. He wrote down people, product, profit. He said, this is the combination of restaurant success. Now, here's the thing. Just like a combination lock, I can tell you the combination, but if you don't put them in the right order, the lock won't open. Same thing. This did not just save my restaurant, it saved my life. People, product, process. It is always in that order. All right. And when you're looking at this stuff, I'm telling you right now, you have to put it in the right order. Most restaurant owners have they have the formula. I mean, everyone here has some people, everyone has some product, everyone has some process. The problem is that you don't have everything in the right spot. And what I mean by not in the right spot, you're focused on the things that you think will drive the needle and they don't drive the needle, because what really drives the needle is people, culture. Without culture, you're not going to have any kind of accountability. We don't have accountability. No one's going to follow your recipe cards. No one's going to follow the portion controls. No one's going to care about this and that. No one's going to care about the guest service. So in the people part, it's always mindset, culture, and then hiring, getting the right people on the team in the right spot. Next, product. This is where most of you start working on. And a lot of you I know, Donald, I need marketing. Luke, we need some marketing. And then Luke and I will both ask you the same question. Is your menu profitable? And if you say no, we're going to say, well, you probably should get some coaching before you really jump into some marketing stuff. Because marketing, actually, Luke and his team, I'm telling you, from working with these guys for now over a year, these guys can open up the floodgates pretty fast to get people in your restaurant. But if your menu is not highly profitable, you're still going to bleed out money, right? How do we fix that? We got to understand your food cost. Your theoretical versus actual food cost gap is the biggest thing. Every month, someone will call me and say, Donald, my food cost is 30%. Is that good? I'll say, I don't know. And they'll say, what do you mean you don't know? I'll say, let me ask you one question. What's your theoretical food cost? And they'll say, I don't know. I'll say, that's a problem. So if your food cost is 30% and your theoretical is 28, that's actually a pretty good food cost, because you should be running around 2% above theoretical. Now, if you're like the average restaurant in the United States, you probably have a gap between theoretical and actual of at least 9% or even more. So one of our certified restaurant coaches, Michael, was working with one of his clients, And here's a beautiful thing about understanding that theoretical actual food cost gap. Michael worked with them to understand that gap between theoretical and actual. What did that do for their bottom line? It added, by understanding their theoretical and actual food cost gap and now having a plan to close the gap, it added $13,500 a month to the bottom line. Let that sink in for a second. 13,000. What would 13,000 extra a month to your bottom line do for you? For some people, that is a life-changing thing. For some of you, it might not even move the needle, but for some of you, that is the difference between like struggling and thriving. And that's just one KPI, one element, just understanding food cost. That's how powerful KPIs are. And then we get into the process part. Process is all about protection. That's where you have accountability systems, some strategy, and then getting that high level of profitability. Now, today's workshop is going to be kind of a little sneak peek into what we call the Profit Clinic. The Profit Clinic is part of our Restaurant Accelerator program. Now, again, the Restaurant Accelerator program is a series of workshops that's going to take you through this people, product, process kind of ladder. And I'm going to give you every tool, all the training, all the coaching you need to be highly successful. These webinars are awesome. I love doing the webinars. It's an hour webinar, and you're going to get some really good gold nuggets. But if you really want to go deep down the rabbit hole, you need a process map, and you need a lot of tools, a lot of training, a lot of coaching to get you there. And here's the thing about most of you. I want you to think of your restaurant like a big, huge bucket. And your goal, your ideal is, I want to fill this bucket with cash. I want to make 18, 20, 22% profitability. The average person right now in our accelerator program does a 19.8% profit margin, which is really, really great, seeing how the national average is only 5%. So we are blowing away the national average. Now, does that require some work on your end? Yes, of course it does. It doesn't happen automatically. It's not magic. It doesn't happen by osmosis. But we, again, will give you all the tools, all the training, and the coaching you need to hit those high levels of profitability. Because right now, if your restaurant is not making the money you want, this is what your bucket looks like. You got holes in your bucket. And the more you're bleeding out is the more holes you have in your bucket. And what you think is you're going to fill this bucket with cash, like sales and revenue and marketing. But the more holes you have in the bucket, you're just going to bleed out more money. The beautiful thing about coaching is what coaching does is starts plugging up these holes. And when we start plugging up these holes, now when you start filling that bucket with marketing money, marketing sales and revenue and streams and stuff like that, now we start raising that revenue inside the bucket. That's where you go from 5% to 10% to 12% to 15% to 20%. Coaching plugs up the holes in the bucket. So if you want more money, you must know your numbers. I mean, know your numbers inside and out. So today we're going to talk about, I'm going to give you the kick in the ass you need about understanding what KPIs are. And KPIs are basically key performance indicators. If you've never heard of the term KPI, you're going to like love KPIs as much as I do. And here's the thing. Numbers separate the winners from the wannabes. It's the truth. If you don't know your numbers, you do not have a business. What you have is a hobby, a very, very expensive hobby, and your spouse is probably getting very, very tired of that hobby not paying the bills. So I want to stop you from it being a hobby. I want you to be a highly profitable business. To do that, we have to stop guessing, start acting. Wannabes guess, winners know. So let's get something straight right now. Again, if you don't know your numbers, you're not running a business. You're kind of running like a hobby, or you're basically running a casino. And in this game, the house always wins. The house is your overhead. The house is your vendors. The house is your rent, your labor cost, your food waste. And if you're not stacking the odds in your favor, trust me, you will lose. Wannabe restaurant owners operate on two things: luck and hope. And I'll tell you right now, hope is never a strategy, right? Two things should never be a part of your business plan. Donald, I think my food costs are okay. Well, labor seems to be under control. Cash flow, cash flow, yeah, we're fine. Fine? No, we don't want to be fine. And then, of course, that reality hits and bam, It's like a wrecking ball. Payroll's due, rent is due, bills piling up like a Jenga tower. And suddenly your bank account looks like a crime scene. Meanwhile, winners operate totally different. What do I mean? Winners have a totally different mindset. What do? They track their prime costs weekly, not quarterly, not when the shit hits the fan. They tweak their guest check. They look at their guest check average and they tweak it like a scientist in the lab, testing, refining, optimizing their guest check average or per person average. They obsess over cash flow, ensuring that their business is not just making money, but I'm keeping it. I'm plugging up those holes in the bucket and I'm filling that bucket with hard, cold cash. So the question is, are you ready to stop guessing and start winning? If you're ready to start winning, then I'm going to break down exactly. There's a few KPIs that you need to master like a effing pro. And to do that, we're going to dig into like my favorite ones. All right. Prime cost. Prime cost. Prime cost is basically your food cost and labor costs put together. Prime cost, and I always say it's the 55% rule. Right. Think of prime costs like the blood pressure of your business. Right? If your blood pressure is too high, you're on the verge of a heart attack. If your blood pressure is too low, you're starving yourself to death. Again, prime cost is that combination of food cost and labor cost. These two expenses make up the bulk of your financial reality. And if you don't know them, don't control them, you will never, ever be profitable. I don't care how great your food is. If you do not know your numbers, it doesn't matter how great your food is, how great your service is, how great of a location you have on a prime street corner, beautiful thing overlooking the ocean. It does not matter, right? If you do not know your prime cost and you cannot track this sucker, you will not be profitable. How do you track it? Again, weekly food, beverage, and labor costs, including taxes and benefit, and you divide it by total sales. If it's over 60%, you're in a danger zone. If you're over 65%, you are bleeding out money. If you're at 60 to 65%, you're probably making a national average anywhere from 2 to 5% profit. From 57 to 60%, anywhere from 5 to 8% profit. 55 to 57, 8 to 12% profit. And again, it depends on your expenses, your P&L. And 55% is like, that's the promised land. You want to get below 55%. I've had people that have started with me coaching that have had super high prime costs. Like I had a restaurant and they've been with me for quite a few years though. But when she started with me, her prime cost was 143%. She wasn't bleeding money. She was hemorrhaging money. I mean, called me every week crying, just distraught about how bad the finances were, borrowing money from the family just to keep things afloat. Did not know how long she could keep it going. And trust me, she didn't have much time. So we got to work really, really hard on it. A year later, prime cost went from 143% to 53%. She makes money like a machine now. And here's the thing. Once I taught her the tools, the training and coaching, and gave her the tools, she just basically keeps that thing on autopilot now, and she doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Once you start getting better habits, it starts changes the game for you, right? So how do we fix prime cost? Well, how to fix it fast? You got to run weekly inventory, because if you don't know, you don't know what you don't track. You got to have recipe costing cards. If you've not have recipe costing cards, again, this is an area you got to jump into right away, because you got to know the exact cost of every dish. If not, you're guessing, and guessing doesn't pay the bills. You also need a schedule based on sales projections. This means I need to look at my projections, and I need to budget how much I want to spend on labor, and budget and schedule according to budget, not what I just feel. All right. Not emotions, not gut feeling. All right. I'll give you a great real world example. All right. I had a client who swore to me, Donald, my prime cost is 58. But, we actually ran the numbers. It was like 72%. He was hemorrhaging cash without realizing it. The solution, cut labor on slow shifts, implement strict portion controls because the team wasn't doing any kind of portion controls. And we eliminated non-profitable menu items. And the result, we dropped the prime cost down to 54% in just 90 days. From 72 to 54% in 90 days. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done. Now, here's a good pro tip. If your labor costs are too high, your food costs could be low, or vice versa. You got to find which fight you want to fight. So a lot of times when people say my prime cost is 65%, I'll say, what's the ratio? Food cost to labor cost. And then we attack the ones that's the highest first. You don't want to fight two fights at the same time. You want to fight one battle at the same time. So normally what I would tell people is like, whatever your prime cost is, whatever ratio is, if it's the food cost is high, we attack that first. If your labor cost is high, we attack that first. Once we get that under control, then we'll attack the other part. And that's how we get your prime cost down to where it needs to be. Another beautiful, beautiful KPI you need to track is guest check average. Guest check average is the money multiplier. It's what we call a multiplicative KPI, right? And I always say, like, this is the dinner table tug of war. Every guest who walks through your door is a kind of a tug of war match between maximizing revenue and settling for mediocrity. They will order the cheapest thing in the menu unless you guide them towards premium choices. That means you have to make recommendations. That means you have to train your team to make recommendations. That means you have to role play. Step one, all right, how do you track your guest check average? Well, you take your total sales and divide it by your number of guests. And then what you want to do is you want to compare it month to month, if not week to week. Because here's the thing, if it's not increasing, you need to fix it. And you need to fix it fast. How do you fix it fast? You train your staff to sell, not to serve. I do not want order takers in any of my restaurants. I want dining consultants. I need to highlight my high profit dishes. That means I'm going to use some menu engineering, some menu design psychology. I'm going to put stuff in the right spot. I'm going to highlight. I'm going to use bold words. I'm going to use menu Jedi mind tricks to maximize the psychology of the menu. I'm going to get people to buy exactly what I want them to buy. I'm going to start bundling some premium stuff. Hey, for just $6 more, upgrade to, right? Add a wine flight. Real world examples. I had a steakhouse I worked with. We raised their guest check average $6. Very, very simple. $6, you might think is a lot. It was actually pretty simple. We trained the service team to offer wine pairings with every dish. So we trained them about wine. So every time we played this little game called They Say, You Say. So if I said New York steak, they paired it with a wine right away. And they picked like a Cabernet, right? So you play this really good game because I say, you say. So the guest says one thing, you train the team to make a recommendation to offer a better enhancement of the dish, right? We started featuring chef specials with limited availability. LTOs are great. FOMO is a huge, powerful marketing motivator. People want to get in on something while it's available right now. Limited time offer. And then we also started bundling high margin appetizers. What was the result? $312 a year, $312,000 a year. Just think about that. A simple guest check average increase changed the revenue $300,000 a year. That's the power of guest check, right? It is my favorite KPI to track. Another KPI I love tracking that a lot of people don't even know about is called RevPash. If you've never heard of RevPash, Google RevPash. I always say it is like, it's like the empty table graveyard. Every empty seat in your restaurant is a gravestone marking lost revenue. I want you, next time you're out in your dining room, I want you to start looking at every chair in your restaurant, and I want you to do this to yourself. I want you to make the cash register sound ching, 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 ching. And every time you go out in that dining room, every time you see an empty seat, I want you to hear ching, 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 ching. That's money that you're losing. RevPash, which is called revenue per available seat per hour, measures exactly how efficiently you're using your space, which is a huge game changer. Right? So you take your total number of sales, you divide it by available seats by opening hours, and that's going to tell you exactly what your RevPash is. And then what I want to do is I want to start identifying my slow periods and my underperforming shifts. How do I fix it fast? I start maybe start pre-selling tables. A lot of restaurants have moved to reservations with deposits. because the people would make reservations and then no show, and then they lose the revenue. So a lot of places are pre-selling tables or reselling reservations with deposits, right? Again, start trying to work on how you can cut table turn times by at least 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes max. If you can start turning tables faster, and what's the number one way to turn tables faster? What's the number one way to turn tables faster? Teach your team to pre-bus. If your team's on top of pre-busing, we call it table management, it will help you turn tables so much faster. And then push that takeout and delivery during slow shifts, right? I'll give you a real world example. I had a restaurant improve their RevPAS, revenue per available seat per hour, from 27 to 36. And how do we do it? Very simple. Encourage reservations with a deposit. We train the team to move tables efficiently. That means pre-busing. We adjusting the seat layout to maximize efficiency. We found this place had a lot of big tables that were going unused. Like they had a lot of 6 tops, 5 tops, but the majority of the people coming in were 2 and 4 tops. So I would look out in this dining room. I saw these big, huge tables that had like 3 or 4 chairs empty. Remember, every time I looked at a chair, it was like ching, ching. So I'm thinking like, hey, that's a lot of extra revenue. Why don't we change the table configurations? Why don't we start moving tables, make smaller tables that we could put together if we needed to, instead of having a big 6-top, huge table that I can't really use for anything. Or I have 3 people sitting at a 6-top and I'm losing revenue. So we adjusted the seat layout for maximum efficiency. Next time you're out and about at a restaurant, even at your own restaurant, look at how is the host seating your team, seating the restaurant, seating the floor. Are they doing it efficiently? Are they putting a 2-top at a 4-top when there's some empty 2-tops available? And please don't give me the thing, oh, well, they did it because they're trying to make it fair and rotate the floor. Life isn't fair. You want to maximize your seating. You want to maximize your revenue. Stop being fair, being efficient. Hashtag write that shit down. Stop being fair, start being efficient. Right? When we change this little bitty thing about just encourage reservations, started changing some of the, teaching the team to pre-bus better and move the table, turn the tables over faster, adjust the seating layout, we added 180,000 in annual revenue to the bottom line. I mean, that's great, right? That's awesome. KPI number 4, and this for a lot of you, you really need to get on this one, cash flow. And I want you to think of cash flow kind of like a gas tank. Running a restaurant without tracking your cash flow is like driving a car with a broken fuel gauge. Now, here's the thing, you might make it, or you might get stranded in the middle of nowhere. What do you want? I don't know about you, but I don't like to risk being out in the middle of nowhere with no gas, right? How do you track it? Step 1, track all cash inflow. That means your sales, catering, gift cards. And here's the thing, if you're not selling gift cards, make gift cards a priority. You should always be selling gift cards. Always sell gift cards, not just during the holidays. A lot of people just sell gift cards during the holidays or Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You should be selling gift cards all year round. Great. And 2, subtract out the cash outflows. That means all your expenses. Okay, what do I mean by expenses? All right, rent, payroll, vendors, marketing. And then again, track weekly. You'd never want to get caught off guard. How do you fix this stuff fast? Never overextend on the non-essentials. Negotiate vendor terms. You want like either net 30 or net 60 if you can to free up some capital. Now, vendors will always want you to go short. They want you to like net 7 or net 14. Push it as far as you can. Try to get net 21 or net 30 if you can. That frees up your cash flow, right? Automate expense tracking. That means have stuff set up where you can track it and see where you're at. No more guessing, because if you're guessing, you're losing, right? Promise me that you're not going to guess anymore. I always love it. I always know a restaurant owner's lying to me when they say, it's about. When you tell me a number's about, it means you don't know shit. Okay. Like, hey, what's your food cost? It's about. Oh, as soon as you say about, I know you don't know what your food cost is, right? No guessing. Guessing equals losing, right? One restaurant had a $100K month but almost missed payroll. Why? No cash reserves. The solution, they implemented a 3-month cash buffer and they never had the problem again. Now, can you start off right away putting away, 3 months of cash? No, but you're going to start small and you start building up your cash reserves. But you got to start small and you got to start now. I don't care if you put away $50 a week into a cash, kind of a cash buffer account, $100, whatever you can afford. Put away a little cash every week into a little cash buffer. If you've not read the book Profit First by Casey Anton, she was at our Restaurant Success Summit last year in Scottsdale. And we have this Restaurant Success Summit every year in Scottsdale, every October, 3 days, 6 speakers, 18 workshops. If you really want to jump on top of this stuff, get Profit First for Restaurants. It's a fantastic book. It will change how you look at money. Because most of you are very, very old school in the sense that you do, top line, bottom line, and what's the bottom of the line is your profit, and then you take whatever's left over for yourself. This whole this profit first kind of mindset just flips the game on that. It's beautiful. And we actually teach it in the accelerator program. So that being said, we'll show you how to implement it step by step. Now, this next KPI is another one that is a killer that you don't probably track at all, but it's probably bleeding you out. You want to talk about a big hole in the bucket? Discounts and comps. It is the silent profit killer. You've heard of that story, death by 1,000 paper cuts? Well, this is it. Every comp is a stab wound to your profits. And if you have enough of them, you will bleed out, and you'll bleed out very, very fast. How do you fix it? Limit who can authorize comps and discounts. Track your server comps. Who's giving away the most? Stop the blind discounting. Make sure promotions have an ROI. Luke and I are very, very on the same page. We don't mind doing discounts or doing some kind of promo to get you in the door to make you a first-time customer. But then I'm going to get you off the discount wagon. I'm going to use a discount to attract you and get you in the door. But after that, I'm going to get you off the discount, bandwagon. I'm going to show you about loyalty programs, about building loyalty with the guest. Right. And here's the thing. You should be at least below 6%. Discounts and comps should be below 6%. Now, I'm not talking about marketing comps. So like when Luke sets up your stuff and you're running discounts and promos for marketing, that goes into your marketing budget, not your discounts and comps budget, just so we know. Because a lot of times people say, Donald, my discounts and comps are 8%. Well, how much of that is marketing? 4%, then you're fine. Okay. All right. If you're below 6% total comps and that 4% goes in your marketing budget, you're good. Don't worry about it. Right. And here's another thing. Hashtag write this down. Marketing is an investment. It's not an expense. Okay. If you're not marketing, you are not anywhere. You're not visible. Marketing drives the bus. Marketing is an investment, is not an expense. Please do not think of marketing as an expense. I know marketing is just so expensive. Not good marketing. Good marketing pays for itself. I can tell you right now, Luke and his team get a huge ROI if you follow their program properly. If you don't follow their program, yeah, you're not going to get any results. But if you follow the program the way they set it up for you and you actually follow through, you will see results, and it is an investment, not an expense. Right. I had a restaurant that was comping $15,000 a quarter, and they didn't even realize it. And then we reduced that down to half. That added $30,000 back to their bottom line. Fast. How much are you bleeding out with discounts and comps? All right. Do you know right now, and just type in the chat, yes or no, do you know what your discounts and comps are on a daily basis? Yes or no? Just type in yes or no. Do you know what your discounts and comps are on a daily basis? Yes or no? Pretty simple. You got one person says yes. I got one person says no. No, 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 no. Got to start tracking your discounts and comps. You are bleeding out money, ladies and gentlemen. That is a huge hole in the bucket, right? It is the silent profit. That's why it's one of the KPIs we track all the time in our accelerator program. I got to know what your discounts and comps are. Right. And then I'm going to ask questions. It's not, I know we make mistakes. I know things get comped. I know they do. But if I'm not asking questions, the team doesn't have any accountability. And I want to make everyone accountable. KPI number 6. Ooh, this is a huge one. Employee turnover. Again, this is another silent, slow killer. It is a culture killer. How do you fix it fast? Pay competitive and offer clear career growth plans and paths. Invest in team development. In the Accelerator program, we have lots of team development stuff, leadership tools. We have lots of programs for leadership. So if you're in the Accelerator program, we have lots of tools that you can give your leadership team. We have what's called time mastery optimization. We have outstanding mindset. We have becoming a positive leader, which is an 8-week course. We have leadership blueprint, which is a 16-week course. We have tons of tools and trainings that you can use. So if you invest in coaching, we will give you the tools and resources to invest in your team to make them better people, right? I'm a huge believer in this. Restaurants become better when the people in them become better people. It starts with you becoming a better leader and your team becoming better people. And you got to create that culture of accountability and appreciation, right? I had a restaurant that had 103% turnover, and we reduced it from 103% turnover. I mean, talk about like a revolving door, to 58% by investing in leadership training. I gave them some tools and trainings in our leadership program, and it made a huge change. What did it do? Added $200,000 to the bottom line, a savings of $200,000 to the bottom line. I'll tell you right now, employee turnover, this is a culture killer. And without the right culture, you will never get a restaurant that doesn't run you. Culture is everything. That's why in that 3P framework, people, product, process, culture is the biggest thing in the people part. If your restaurant is a revolving door of employees coming in and out faster than guests, like an all-you-can-eat buffet, you got a serious problem. High turnover is a silent killer. It is bleeding your restaurant dry. And it's actually, and here's the thing. I know you're busy. I know you're busy putting out fires to notice, right? And we waste so much money. I mean, restaurants waste thousands of dollars a year on recruiting, training, and onboarding new staff. They don't even realize it. Your team is constantly just in chaos. They're trying to fill the gaps when people leave suddenly. And here's the thing, your guest experience suffers because inexperienced staff means poor service. And then those remaining staff that do stick around, they start losing motivation because they don't see a future with your place. And before you know it, your restaurant becomes this black hole of a broken culture, a burnout, and a shit reputation that, that place can't keep good people. You don't want that, right? You got to fix it, and you got to fix it. I'm going to tell you right now, turnover will kick your butt. The 2 biggest killers of culture, all right? If you want to keep your team, you got to do 2 things right away. Number 1, you got to fix bad leadership. No more yelling at your staff, because yelling doesn't make them better. Ignoring things doesn't make it better. Being too nice and avoiding accountability doesn't make it better. If you want a better staff, you got to be a better leader. Hashtag write this shit down. Culture flows down. It doesn't flow up. And it starts with you being a better leader. All right. And another thing you got to watch out for is inconsistency. You got to hold your people accountable. Right? If you don't hold your people accountable sometimes, but not always, you have no culture. If you recognize only good work when you feel like it, you have no culture. If your employees don't know what's expected of them, you have no culture. You have to create a culture that is clear, structured, and fair. And to do that, we give you a powerful 8-part workshop called the Know Why Workshop. The Know Why Workshop will give you every element you need to create a culture of accountability. It is the #1 game changer. It is probably the most powerful course in the Accelerator program is that Know Why Workshop, because it sets up the whole, it's just like a domino door. It will set up everything you need to be super, super successful in your restaurant. Right. So let's talk about transforming your restaurant through focused, super, super focused KPI mastery, right? Imagine that your restaurant as a ship navigating a vast ocean in the restaurant industry. The waters are unpredictable. The winds are ever changing. And sadly, like the Titanic, there's hidden icebergs behind, lurking everywhere. If you want to steer your ship safely and efficiently, you need precise instruments. That's what's called KPIs. KPIs are like the dashboard on your car, right? When the check engine light comes on, do you do something about it or do you ignore it? If you're smart, you do something about it. If your gauges on your car says you have a low tire, do you ignore it or do something about it? That's what KPIs are. KPIs are like warning signs like, hey, you're on track. Uh-oh, that's off track. You need to look at this, right? And when you have all these kind of KPIs dialed in, it's like a whole series of gauges and dials that keeps you focused on where you need to be, right? There is power in singular focus. In the restaurant world, I'm telling you, it is so tempting to address all your challenges simultaneously. And here's the thing, that shotgun approach will lead to diluted efforts. It's going to minimize your progress. Instead, I want you to channel your energy into mastering one KPI at a time. Right? Why do we do this? Because it allows you to have some clarity. A singular focus eliminates confusion and also enables you to understand the real, the intricacies of that specific area. Another thing that focusing on one KPI at a time, it allows you to have measurable progress. When I focus on one KPI, it gives me a clear metric that I can actually assess for improving. And then another thing is it helps me with team alignment. Because when I have one thing, one target, it's easy for the team to get behind it. We kind of rally up, but it's like a unified goal, and it actually gets more collaboration and commitment from the team. How do we do this? I'm going to give you some steps to effective KPI management. Number one, identify the most impactful KPI. I gave you a whole bunch of them. Whatever one you're bleeding on with first, that's the one you want to start with. A lot of times I have people focus on prime cost, guest check average, or discounts and comps. All right. But identify the most impactful KPI. Which areas pose the most significant challenge or offer the greatest opportunity for improvement? So if your labor costs are out of control, you really want to focus in on that labor cost ratio. All right. You want to set very, very clear, achievable targets. Once you've pinpointed your KPI, you need to establish a specific goal. And then you got to ensure that these targets are realistic and time-bound to maintain motivation and direction. For example, if you aim to reduce your labor ratio from I want to reduce my labor cost, my hourly from 30 to 25% over the next quarter, that's really good. 30 to 25% measurable next quarter, time-bound. Number three, develop and implement strategies. Formulate actionable plans to achieve your thing. Right. This might involve, getting some staff training going, maybe, doing some practice, maybe renegotiating with suppliers, whatever you need to do for whatever the KPI is. You need to implement strategies diligently, ensure all team members understand their roles in the process. 4, monitor progress through weekly tracking. You got to start getting to this weekly tracking. Consistent monitoring is crucial. By reviewing a chosen KPI on a weekly basis, you really can quickly, identify trends. You can celebrate successes, and you can also kind of address those setbacks. But a regular assessment fosters a proactive management style. You want to be proactive instead of reactive. 99% of you are reactive. You're playing checkers, right? This happens, you do this. This happens, you do that. This happens, you respond. You just basically react. You're reacting. You're in reaction mode all day, just putting out fires. You want to go from playing checkers to playing chess. And then 5, reflect and iterate. After a set period, you want to kind of just, how are we doing? What's our outcome? Do we achieve our targets? What were lessons we learned? We use a framework in the TRC method. It's called the 3Q framework. The 3Q framework is 3 questions you should be asking yourself every single day. What's working? What's not working? How do I make it better? If you go through everything in your restaurant and use that 3Q framework, you'll have a totally different restaurant in a week. Every day, ask yourself 3 questions for everything, like in the people part. What's working? What's not working? How do we make it better? Product part. What's working? What's not working? How do we make it better? Process, what's working, what's not working, how do we make it better? You can even go deeper down the rabbit hole. My mindset, what's working, what's not working, how do I make it better? My culture, what's working, what's not working, how do I make it better? Everyone with me so far? Okay. Everybody with me so far? Okay. So let me give you a really good kind of a real world thing. And we talk about labor a lot because labor cost seems to be a big problem with a lot of restaurants. So I had a mid-sized restaurant group with a very, very high labor expense. So we started zoning in on this labor cost ratio. And the management team was really, again, tasked to reduce hourly labor, just the hourly part, from 35% to 28% in over 6 months. How do we do that? We optimize the scheduling. We leveraged historical data and aligned the staffing levels with a, kind of peak off-peak hours. We started doing more cross-training. We had the team trained to handle multiple roles, which actually enhanced flexibility and reduced the need for extra hires. We also gave performance incentives. We started doing bonuses for employees who contributed to operational efficiency. And then we started tracking it weekly. And we observed it always starts off slow, a gradual decline in labor. Eventually, we started getting closer and closer. And eventually within, we set the target over 6 months. Within 4 months, we hit the target. So it was really, really beautiful. And here's the thing, because we had the team involved and participated, we gave them kudos when they actually did great. Staff morale improved, service quality improved, everything improved. Okay. There is a ripple effect of mastering one KPI. When you master one KPI, it has a kind of a cascading effect across your whole thing, right? Like guest satisfaction scores. That will lead to increased repeat business, positive reviews, higher revenue, maybe inventory turnover ratio. If I reduce my inventory ratio, I can actually reduce waste and free up other capital for free investments. It's beautiful when you start having this ripple effect. Probably the most powerful KPI, I like to do this as far as the ripple effect, is the guest check average one. Guest check average is so, so powerful. And it has such a huge ripple effect on everything in your restaurant. So now it's your turn. Embarking on this journey requires commitment and discipline. How do you start? Well, choose a KPI. Reflect on what your restaurant's performance is right now and identify what is the most pressing metric that you need to improve. Engage, involve, get your team to buy in. You need to communicate the importance of the KPI and involve your staff in brainstorming solutions. Another thing is you have to implement and monitor. You got to put your strategies into action. Talk is cheap. And you got to review the progress weekly. You got to make adjustments when you need to. Remember, the path to excellence is paved with focused incremental improvements. When you really dedicate your efforts to mastering one KPI at a time, you're going to set the course for sustained success in an ultra competitive landscape. Final thoughts. Here's the thing. You can't fix what you can't see. And I'll tell you, this is my own problem too. When I had my first restaurant, I mean, if you could fix this on your own, you would have. But if you're here reading this slide right now, looking for answers, listening to this webinar, you wouldn't be frustrated with cash flow problems, high turnover, shrinking margins. You wouldn't be constantly grinding, stressed out, wondering why the numbers never seem to work out in my favor, Donald. Here's the truth. You don't have a restaurant problem. You have a coaching problem. Okay. So the power of a coach is so powerful. And I never would believe this until I got my first coach. It helps you navigate the complex water of KPIs. I mean, running a restaurant without tracking KPIs is like sailing blind in a storm. You might be a great captain. You might be a great chef. You might be super talented. You might have experience. You might have been in the restaurant business 25 years. I've been in a restaurant 45 years. But if you can't see the hazards ahead, you don't have the right navigational tools. And here's the thing. You don't have anyone to guide you away from disaster. And if you don't have anyone to guide you away from disaster, you are going to crash. The beautiful thing about a coach doesn't just tell you what you already know, right? They expose your blind spots. That's the stuff you don't see. They give you a proven roadmap so you don't waste time guessing. And they give you accountability so you actually execute and get results. I mean, you can keep spinning your wheels, you keep making the same mistakes, keep hoping things magically improve, or you can get a coach and fix this once and for all. Now, for the last 15 years, my coaching programs have helped over 3,000 independent restaurant owners in 23 different countries, just like yours. Why? Because coaching provides two critical things you need. You need accountability and you need new tools. It's like going to the gym. I can go to the gym. I know how to work out, but if I have a personal trainer, I get results a lot faster because they help me adjust my form. They help dial in my diet, my macros, and they actually put me, like when they see me starting to hit a plateau, they adjust my training schedule. So I start seeing growth and resistance and breakthrough. The Accelerator program is a step-by-step formula for everything you need. All right, I will give you every tool, training, download that you need to be highly successful. And what I mean by highly successful, I mean 18% profit and higher. Is it going to happen overnight? No, but it will happen if you follow the tools and you follow the framework. I always say, if you want to win the game, you just got to follow the frame. We will give you everything you need. Plus, you'll get a dedicated certified restaurant coach, someone I've handpicked out that knows my TRC method, that actually uses my TRC method in their own restaurants, that know the power of what happens when you follow this thing correctly. Right now, I mean, I think we're up to like 250 hours of videos, over 400 downloads. There's 3 group training calls a week you get. You get a Tuesday call, this Wednesday call, and a Thursday Q&A call with me. And you also get one-on-one coaching. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I wish I had all of this when I had my restaurant and I was struggling. I would have been a multi-million-dollar restaurant empire within a year. I definitely would have been. And I think Luke put it in the chat. Just guys, just speak to someone on the restaurant growth team. I think Luke put a thing in it. If you want, just drop your email in there if you want to talk to somebody on the team. All right. We'd love to have you in the program. We definitely would. But it's, again, if you're very happy with where you're at, then that's fine too. Anybody have any questions? Any questions about KPIs? Any questions about anything in general? We love the Q&A part. Any questions, Luke? You got any questions, Luke? Luke always has a question.
Crystal clear to me. Yeah, thank you, Donald. Very good session today. Yeah, as Donald mentioned, guys, if you don't already have a one-on-one coach and you want one, then just put your email in the chat box below or shoot me a message and I will set you up with one of our guys.
Yeah. Perfect.
Also, this is recorded and will be up in the portal within about 24 hours. So you'll see that there as well.
And I'm in the Slack community too. So in the Slack community, the webinar community, I'm in there too. So you can always, if you have a question, always reach out to me. I think I'm at Donald Burns in the group chat in the Slack, right? Should be. But ask questions, please. We're happy to help you out. I want to help you out. Someone helped me when I had my first restaurant and it changed everything. So if I can help you out, please let me know how we can. How do I calculate food costs for an Indian restaurant? My chef says we're going to estimate and not get exact numbers. That's a lie. Well, first off, you have to have recipe cards. That's how you get recipe. That's how you get food costs. You got to have recipe cards for everything in your restaurant. Okay. And if you have a buffet, there's a formula to calculate food costs for a buffet. But that's like a whole hour workshop to understand food costs for buffets. Okay. I can't, that's hard to answer in just like a 2-minute answer session. But yes, number one, you need recipe cards for everything. And if you have a buffet, there's a whole different formula for doing buffets. We work with a lot of restaurants that have buffets. And so it's not uncommon for us to work with people like that. Cash flow is killing me. What's the first step when you're already in the hole? Well, you got to understand where your cash flow is. So number one, you need a budget and a P&L. Without a budget and a P&L, you'll always be in a cash flow crunch because you don't know where you're bleeding out at. So you need to set up a budget and then you need to set up a P&L. And your P&L has to be very, very detailed. We use what's called a restaurant P&L. A restaurant P&L is very, very detailed. It's from the National Restaurant Association. It's a lot more detailed than a QuickBooks P&L. And we have exact training on how to use a restaurant P&L. Now, I'll give you a fair warning. When you tell your accountant you want to use a restaurant P&L, they're going to say no, because it's a lot more work for them. But it's your business and you need the data, and you need to get the data the way you want it. So I always I push back and say, no, this is how I want my data. This is how I want my P&L. And I need this like that. Yeah. Yeah. If all KPIs are messed up, including sales, where to start? Start with prime cost, food cost, labor cost. That's usually one I start with. Right. That's usually where I start with. Because if I can get your prime cost kind of under control, especially the food cost, labor cost, then we have a little breathing room, and then we can start working on other KPIs. Okay. Prime cost is always the first one you want to fix. And then we use like a kind of a multi-pronged approach. So we dial in on the prime cost, but we also give you some other KPIs that will actually help accelerate that prime cost moving in the right direction. One is guest check average. One is discounts and comps. Does that make sense? Yeah. And if your sales are messed up, it's a marketing problem. Low sales are always a marketing problem. Right, Luke?
Yes, sir.
Low sales. Anytime says my sales are low, it's a marketing problem. I mean, I assume your food's good. I assume your service is good. If your food and service suck, then that's why your marketing doesn't work either, because no one wants to go to a bad restaurant. So, yeah. Fair enough. Oh, I'm a huge believer in doing the 5-day work week. I'm a huge believer in the 5-day work week for restaurants. Why? Because number one, it gives everyone 2 days off in a row. So all I have to do is run an A team. You're going to see, like, when you have 5, when you open 7 days a week, you got an A team and then you got a B team. Sadly, a lot of your problems happen when the B teams run the show. So if I can go to a 5-day work week, I can easily, and a lot of people say right away, think like, if I go to 5 days, I'll lose a lot of sales. You think you will, but you won't. Because what happens when you start marketing that we're open these days, if your restaurant's really popular and good, people will make adjustments to their calendar to come those 5 days you're open. Don't worry about it. I've never had a restaurant go from 7 to 5 days that did not have did not really like suffer that bad. In fact, everything goes up because your labor comes down, your team morale goes up, everyone gets the hours they need, everyone's happy. It's really, really beautiful. Can a bad location be overcome? Yes, by a lot of marketing. I mean, a lot of marketing. a lot of marketing. Yes, a bad location can be made up by marketing. Right now, it also depends on location too. If you're in a really bad neighborhood and it's like, there's like, you gotta think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If people have like they're fearful, like it's a bad neighborhood and they don't want to go out at night and they're afraid they're going to get mugged or carjacked, then you got a really bad location that no marketing is going to help. And I've had restaurants had that problem. They got into a developing neighborhood. The neighborhood didn't develop the way they want. It actually became kind of a shit show. And then the neighborhood just went to hell. And then no one wants to go to the neighborhood because they don't want to get their carjacked or don't want to be mobbed, yeah. So yeah, there are some really bad locations. Reach out to me on the Slack channel if you want me to take a look at your location. I can tell you a lot of times if you tell me your location, I can put it in Google Maps and I can see what kind of location it is. I can tell you if it's time to run or time to like dig in. Either way, you know me, I will be honest with you. I don't sugarcoat anything. Come on, I wrote a book called Your Restaurant Sucks. Is there a recommended percent of marketing spend? 4 to 5% of your revenue. Actually, 4 to 7% of revenue should be marketed for marketing. 4 to 7% of your annual revenue should be dedicated for marketing budget. This is great. More questions? I love questions. Hit me up, people. Hit me up. hit me up. Hit me up. All right, everyone have a fantastic day. If I can help you out, please let us know. Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.